Hi guys, it's Linda Winter from Winter Design. So I want to show you the Mask Keeper template. This guy here, it's to make zipper cases. That's what I'm going to be showing you, to hold your mask and all your little goodies. But I want to remind you to go look for the video where I showed you how to do a towel topper. This towel topper is super easy. I show you some folding and different tips and things like that. But the actual creating of this is super fast, super easy. And you can do a snap or a button or Velcro, whatever it is. But go watch that video because I'll show you how to use the same template with the no-slip material to create these as well. But let's get started. So what do I need? You're going to need a zipper, of course. Now I like, because I've got a curved top, I like using this peel-off tape. And the peel-off tape I have on my website, but you can get it wherever you shop. Of course, you're going to need the Mask Keeper template. You can see right here, this Mask Keeper, I've got it upside down, right side up, however you want to call it. But this is engraved. It's hard to see, so I used one of the Sharpies, metallic Sharpies that I have on the website to go color that in. Totally up to you, but this is how it comes. We're going to be putting the zipper right here. With the towel topper, we actually did it opposite, where this was the bottom here, this guy was going this way, upside down. So if you're doing directional fabrics, I've got a directional fabric, I don't care that this is going to be upside down because this is here. Now I could go this way if I wanted to, totally up to you, but directional fabrics, just keep in mind. This is the fabric I'm going to use for the outside. This is the fabric I'm going to use for the lining, the inside. You can see on my Harry Potter here, I've used the same fabric front and back. It's directional, so I added a seam right here. And then inside, I had a fabric that wasn't directional, but I wanted to be able to sew that closed. So I have a seam here. We're going to do that with this one, so I'll be able to show you that. I'm not going to have a seam on this outside fabric, but it's easy enough to do. If you're going to do a seam on the outside, then what I highly recommend you do is cut your fusibles. When you cut your fusible, this fusible, you iron it onto your fabric, and when you sew these together, that automatically gives you your stitch line. Now that's a whole lot bigger than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I don't care because we're going to be stitching along here. And what that'll give you is directional. So if you wanted to do like I've done here, that's basically what you're going to be doing, cutting it that way. So I've got this one that Shirley created. My friend Shirley and Beth, they were really the two behind both the Mask Keeper itself for masks, and now it's just a great zipper case, and then also the towel topper. So this was from Shirley. This was from Shirley. I created the Harry Potter one. I just think this is really cute fabric, and it's a great thing to give to a guy or a boy or a girl that just loves Harry Potter, you know, all the Hermione fans that are out there. And then this one is a fussy cut. I'll show you how to fussy cut later on in another video because I'm coming out with a fussy cut template. That's going to be really cool. You had me at Woof. I've got a mask in here. This guy here, it's got the zipper at the top, but again, you can stuff whatever it is. You can do a strap if you want, so totally up to you. But let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I've got my two fabrics. This is the lining, and I went ahead and put SF101 on the lining. I've ironed that on, and I put on the outer fabric SF101 as well. So the SF101 just makes it a little bit stiffer, gives it a little bit more substance. You don't have to do it on your lining, but I really like it. So my lining, I'm going to leave a little bit for my seam allowance because I'm going to be folding that inside. I don't need to add a lot because this is going to be tucked inside here, but I do want to leave a little bit just so that it gives me enough room to be able to not have a lot of fabric wasted. I'm looking right up here when I fold in half, and I'm basically going to go ahead and cut, get the rotary coat open. And notice what I'm doing. I'm basically just giving myself a little bit there. We'll cut that in half in just a minute. And I really should have put in the opposite direction so I don't have to do this process. If I put that on the opposite where that seam already was, then I wouldn't have to go cut here. But I'm okay because I've got my ruler that gives me those perfect cuts. All right, so when we look at these two, those are my linings. And what that gives me is just a little bit more for my seam allowance. Okay, We're going to put that aside, and now we're going to grab this fabric. Now, I do want to have the fabric bottom where the fold is. So my zipper is going to go here at the top. So I'm going to place this right on the edge. Now, if I had fabric that I wanted to fussy cut, that fussy cut frame that I'll be coming out with is really going to make a difference. And I think if y'all like me, like to do sayings, those kinds of things, you can find fabric that has that already, but you can also do cricket and silhouette. Those seem to be more and more popular these days, so I'm definitely going to be showing more projects with that. So lined up to the edge here, my rotary cutter is already open, so I'm going to cut. I'm turning. When I turn that template, that no slip material, it's grabbing, so I don't have to worry about anything not coming out accurately, consistently. All right, so this gives me my fold, which is at the bottom. What we want to do first is add our zipper. Now we're going to add our zipper here first, and then I'm going to place this on, and I'm going to stitch my zipper here. Once we do that, we're basically going to be pulling this over and doing the same thing on the other side. So you can pin if you like. You can clip. In the dumpling video, I showed you to clip and clip and clip, but this isn't a real generous curve, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this because it just, to me, is so much easier, and it prevents the need for all the pinning and the clipping and everything else. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going along the edge. This is not my seam allowance. This is just to hold that zipper in place. So it's okay if I'm a little bit higher, a little bit lower, because the placement of the zipper will be what matters. When I get to the edge, I'm going to go ahead and snip. And then I don't know if you saw what I pulled out. This is a tool that I've started using a lot, and I really, really like it. So much that I added it to the website. So what am I doing? I'm just making sure that this is on there really good. See how this is a little bit further away than that is? I don't care, because I'm going to be putting the zipper on and placing that in position. The placement in position matters more than this does. All right, make sure that's on there nice and tight. Now your zipper needs to be longer than you think it does, because I've got a curve and that zipper is going to take up some of that curve. All right, if you cannot get this to pull off easily, do y'all remember Carol Duvall? Carol Duvall used to struggle with that a lot. So I used my scissors just to take a little snip out, and I peeled off that tape. All right, what we want to do is have the zipper going with the teeth down. And I want to give myself plenty of excess, not a ton, because if I have left over, I can use the zipper. Imagine that's a zipper. I can use the zipper to do something like that. And I can even add, you can imagine that was the zipper right there. I can add a carabiner if I want. So I'm not going to put this in the center, but I definitely want to give myself enough room. All right, so where I place this right here is the start of it. So I'm going to just finger this in place, take my time. And we're going to check to make sure that everything is good in just a second. I'm not going to cut the zipper edge of the other side until I'm all done sewing this together, because I want to take advantage of that excess zipper. All right, so let's take a look and see. Can you see where my zipper is along the edge? And you can see I need to press. And I probably gave myself not enough of a zipper there. So we're going to peel that off a little bit. And what I mean by that is I don't want any puckers in that zipper. So I'm just going to give a little bit more zipper there, a little more easing. If you all are sewers, you might remember easing from clothing way back in the day. It's a faint memory. I'm so much into get her done stuff that I'm not sure I could make a suit anymore, but I did. And a prom dress too. All right, notice what I'm doing. I'm just giving this a really good press, because the next step that I do, I'm not going to be using the tape. I'm just going to place this on here. I am going to use a pin or a clip. And I'm going to come over and I'm lining up my sides here. When I'm lining up my sides here. And because I added that seam, I'm not worrying about the bottom that little bit of excess for the inside seam. I'm not worrying about the bottom. What I'm going to do is just hold those two in place. So when I'm at the sewing machine, this guy here, whoops, right there. Like, that doesn't seem right. This guy right here. Can you see what I want to do? I want to make sure that this lines up here. And if you want to put one pin or one clip in here just to hold it as you're getting everything else going, that's not going to hurt. But I'm not going to use pins because I have that tape. All right, so I want to make sure that everything is looking good. And you can see my fusible here is a little bit loose on the back, so I am going to take a minute and just press that down. And that's just in the pressing process when you're doing the fusible, not the tape. This isn't doing anything to the tape. And the tape, by the way, is washable, so it'll wash out when you wash this, if you wash this. I'm not washing this. But if you did need to wash this, if you use this tape on other projects, it's great for so many projects. But if you do a project that is washable, it's going to wash out. So be aware that it's not permanent tape. Permanent tape is typically not tape that you can sew through. It's going to ruin your needle, ruin your machine, even gum it up. Okay, you can see we're going to be stitching along here and stitching along here. Now, Linda McGehee doesn't like using a zipper foot, and I don't always use a zipper foot, but on this project I am. And I'm going to use the zipper foot almost all the way through this project, even when I'm doing my side seams. So I'm just going to leave it on there. All right, let's get this foot on. And I'm going to move my needle to the left position. And when I move that needle way over, we'll be able to see that I've got it in the correct position. You can put on a zipper foot to the left, to the right, and center. And I moved it a little bit further than I want to. And I'm still a little bit further than I want to. I just was going to town. 2.5 is where I like this. And when I start to sew, we've got that pin in here. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to hold all of this down. Now I want to make sure that everything is lined up. Can you see how this moved a little bit? So I'm going to just peel this back and get that closer to the edge and get everything lined up. And again, if you want to put a pin in there or clips, go right ahead. I just find that if I put the tape on one side, that I'm usually pretty good. Now, I don't want to jinx myself, so we'll see. My stitch length, I'm at 3.0 from the last project, so I'm going to put this to about 2.7. If this is the first time you've done a zipper project, put it like 4.0, so you can stitch it in there and test to see that you've got it right, and then go back and then stitch on it again. All right, I'm feeling the edge of the zipper along the edge of my foot, and I'm just making sure that everything is still lined up. I'm counting on that tape to hold down my zipper in place. And when I get closer to the next side, to the next edge, I'm going to go ahead and peek underneath because it does tend to slip on that edge. So I want to make sure that that one is good, and I'm going to make sure that this is good. And my zipper itself, zipper pull, is completely out of the way, so I don't have to worry about that. All right, let's take a look and see what we did. I didn't have to pin. I only used those 2 clips to get started, and let's see how that did. Now, of course, you would take the time to press. You can do a top stitch if you want to. I'm just going to finger this here. I would trim off that bulk, but you can see that did a pretty consistent job on the top and on that lining. So we are good to go to the next side. All right, what are we going to do? We're going to bring this back, and we're going to, again, put the tape over on this side. Let's get that guy out of the way. Let's peel off our tape here. And again, that tape to me just cuts down on the frustration, on the pinning, on the clipping, on all of the excess. It's just, you know, it's like if you've got a cheater tool that you want to take advantage of, this is a good one. And I don't remember how much comes on this, but it is a lot. Keep it in a little Ziploc baggie. It does come in a bag, in a package, but I don't like the packaging that it's in. So put it in a little Ziploc bag afterwards so that it doesn't go bad. And again, just give this a good little press with this guy here. And if I can get it to peel off on its own, terrific. If not, I'll use my scissors. Yeah, see how it's not peeling off there? So what I'm going to do, we'll press that down again. And I'm just going to score this. I don't even need to use the openness of the scissors. I just put a little crease in there. And do you see how I can peel off? That gets it started. And I'm curious how many of you all are old enough to remember Carol Duvall like me. Carol was such great inspiration, and I got to meet her at one of the shows, and it was such a cool thing to be able to tell her, you have no idea how much I enjoyed you, you know, that kind of thing. All right, so what are we doing? We're going to line up our sides here to be able to make sure that I get this just right. So when I start placing this, I'm looking at this edge and this edge right here. I want to make sure that I don't go further. So we're going to bring this up to the edge. And you can put a clip in here if you want to, just to hold that in place. I'm going to reposition that so it gets me that curve. And then I'm going to get that zipper out of the way, and we're just going to start taking our time with positioning that zipper. And all I'm doing is just bringing it along that curve. And again, if you want to take the time to snip, the dumplings, especially the smaller dumplings, they've got a much more extensive curve. So it would be worth it for those dumplings to snip, snip, snip the zipper. I still would be using this. I figured out that I really like that in combination with zippers and this tool as well. All right, so what have we done? We've got this. We need to unzip that now. To be able to get inside there. And if you had the two pieces of fabric, one piece, two piece, that process that I just did would be a whole lot easier because this is connected and the other two, see how this one isn't connected? They're not connected, so it would be a whole lot easier, just like this is a whole lot easier. Okay, so we're looking at here, lining up the edge, and we're going to position this. And we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch that down too. Make sure that everything is good here. Do you see how with the zipper right here, it came off that tape and all of my flopping around? So I'm going to go ahead and reposition this. And we're going to roll this down a little bit better. That tape is my only security to be able to get the zipper in position. So I want to make sure that that's good to go. All right, so right sides together. And again, the teeth of the zipper are facing my outside fabric. I'm going to place a clip here just to hold those two together. And I don't really need a clip on the other side. Okay, let's head to the sewing machine. And I'm going to be able to feel with that foot that my needle is going to go right along there. And take your time to get those edges lined up. But you can imagine if you're doing a bunch of these assembly line, I love assembly line projects, you'll be able to get these done a whole lot faster. You'll do one zipper, then you do the next zipper and the next zipper. When you get done with this, you're going to be a zipper pro. None of the, whoops, that didn't quite work, that kind of thing. All right. And I would take the time to flip over on the back side. I probably should have, but I'm not going to make sure. Yeah, see how that's a little bit off there? I'm going to go ahead and stitch back on there and just get a little bit closer to that zipper. All right. So what have we done? We've done the zipper on the outside. We've done the zipper on the lining. And let's flip that over and take a look at what we've done. And see that pucker right there? That's where, when I moved that a little bit, oh, it's just there. It's just not pulled out right. Okay, yeah, I don't know if you can tell. This was sticking out and this wasn't. It's just the fabric wasn't all the way open. That's where pressing is going to make a huge difference too. Okay, so what do we want to do now? We want to bring our sides together, linings to lining and outside to outside. I'm going to start on the side that does not have the zipper itself. We're going to start on the other side because that's an easy enough one to do. Now, right here, do you see how this is a fold? So with that fold, you want to make sure that you've got your zippers lined up and everything is good to go. This, it's easy enough to see where those bottom edges need to be, but on this side, we need to make sure that we've got those sides right. All right, clips or pins, and you do want to use them here. And we don't need to sew this down here on this one. Again, if we were doing a directional fabric, we'd be stitching that here, stitching all the way around. I really would start here, stitch here, all the way around, all the way around. This zipper, when I mentioned don't start on that side, because we have to move that inside of our project to be able to get that open. So we don't want to have to do any of that adjusting. All right, so now is the time too to talk about if we are going to add one of the little leashes, if we're going to add one of the carabiners, now is the time to do it. If we were going to add it, we would be adding it, I like where, let's just show you on this one. I like where when the zipper is closed, that this is where it is. So if you've got this in your hands and you're putting it on your wrist, I don't have to worry about if I don't have that closed all the way. If I had this on the other side and the zipper was open a little bit, and I held it here, everything would fall out. So make sure if you are going to add one of these that you go ahead and figure out where it is. So we're going to go ahead, and I said we're not going to cut off yet, but I am going to cut off a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and cut off some of this to be able to have this as my zipper tab. So we're going to go ahead and cut here, and you want to make sure that every time you open this zipper over here, you don't go any further because I just cut off the zipper tab. All right, so we're going to take this. This is the side where it's going to be opening, so I want to put that inside over here. We're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch this down. And do you see that tab right there? We're actually going to go cut that off too. And we're going to stitch this down. Linda McGehee taught me this little trick. So at the sewing machine, and I still have this zipper foot on. The zipper foot is not the best at sewing over a zipper, but all I'm doing is tacking this in place. And it's not going to like it. So I'm going to stitch to the middle. We're going to flip it over. And we're going to stitch on the other side. You could actually start at the zipper in the center and stitch out if you wanted to do that. All I want to do is just tack it enough so it will hold together. All right, we're going to place this inside here, right inside here, and where I have that first clip, I'm going to bring this in. And it's just one more thing that I need to do. We're going to put a clip here just to hold that in place while I get everything lined up. All right. And again, we don't have a fold here, so we're kind of looking at that center to be able to see my zippers. All right. Let's get those zippers going in the same direction. And now I'm going to put a pin in here just because I have a little bit more control with that. All right, now we're going to clip. And you decide how long you want that to be. Now, I want to show you something I really would do if I were making this with the zipper tab. Because I cut it short, I would make it like this. So that means you need to add the carabiner later. That's no big deal. But if I had one of the D rings, an O ring, something like that, I would need to put that on the zipper now. This, because it clips on and off, no big deal. But if I am adding something, you know, basically you have a piece of fabric that goes this way and you've got the metal piece that is a sew in, you have to attach that now, now before you actually do this. But with the carabiner, no big deal. We can always add that later on. All right, so I've got a pin here. I've got a clip here. That's to hold those two in place. I've got those clipped over here. We're going to stitch that side, and then we're going to come over here, and we're going to clip here. And I'm actually going to sew from the other side. So I'm going to move that pin to the other side. Why am I sewing from the other side? It's just a little easier to see this. Okay, we're going to stitch that down. We're going to stitch that down. And then we'll do that on the same side. All right, as I said, I'm going to use that same zipper foot. Why? Well, I have a guide, basically. But also, it's on here. So it's just one less thing I have to do. All right, so we're going to back tack here. And when I get to this zipper, again, it's not going to like sewing over all this bulk. So you're going to fight with it a little bit. And this is where it might be worth it for you to put on a regular sewing machine foot. You can take your time. I'm going to back tack. And I'm going to go forward again. And remove that pin. All right, now we're coming to the zipper and where those seams at the top are all lined up. So we're just going to take our time here. And I'm sewing over that zipper. We're going to sew this side down. And we'll continue to sew till we get to the edge. We're going to be turning that inside out and then stitching that down in a traditional way. That's going to be our opening to turn this project. So lock your stitch a little bit there. Now, on the next side, we're going to go ahead and same thing. We're going to look to see here, that fold that's there, and we're looking right at the center. Line those up and pin or clip if you want to. Now, this is where that zipper tab is, so it's critical that we don't sew with that zipper tab out here. So we're going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to reach inside and I'm going to pull that zipper tab inside just a little bit. So when I do turn this inside out, we're going to turn inside out here, no big deal, but I need the zipper pull to be on the inside of the project, not on the outside of the project. And can you see how much more of the zipper I had left? So if I wanted to do a longer, this is a shorter one, but if I wanted to do a longer one, I wouldn't be able to do that long, but that zipper definitely would work. And if you have short zippers that you don't use for anything and you're just, you know, what am I doing with these? Well, they're perfect for all of these. You know, all of those kinds of things. So, you know, and zippers that are used, that works too. All right, we're going to stitch this down again. So we're back at the sewing machine. And I'm using my foot as my guide. We're going to go ahead and take a couple stitches. I'm going to back tack here, and I'm actually going to stitch a little bit further. My machine is being a little finicky. It's time to change my needle of my sewing machine. All right, we're going to get rid of that clip. Get rid of that clip. And when I get closer to the zipper, I'm going to make sure that everything is lined up. And again, we're just going to take our time sewing over all of this. And if you want to put on a regular foot to avoid what I'm doing here, then by all means, go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm just going to take my time. Now, that had no problem going over. So what I'm going to do is back tack here. We're going to flip inside out, and we're going to make sure that everything looks good. If I know that it looks good, I check and I see that it all looks good, then I'm going to go ahead and come back and just double stitch on that area where the zipper is, so we've got nice, good reinforcement. All right, so what are we doing? We are pulling out the outside, and we're pulling out the lining. We're going to be turning this opening under and closing it. You can do it by hand if you want. I'm not going to do it by hand. I'm going to do it with the sewing machine, but it's up to you. All right, so we're opening this, and I'm not going to give it all of its shape and substance yet, because all I care about right now is that my zipper looks good enough. And, oh, look right here. Do you all see that? Those little flowers that are there? I thought that was part of my zipper peeking out. So if you wear glasses, put on your glasses so you can see those kinds of things. All right, let's take a look. All right, so you can see without pressing that that's doing what it needs to do. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. And now we're going to do some reinforced sewing, and we're going to do some trimming too, just to make sure that everything is going to hold up when I use this project, because we want to stuff it full of whatever it is. All right, and we're going to cut off that excess zipper too, because I don't need all that extra zipper. You can use pinking shears, but I love precision scissors for the sides. I'm going to do the pinking shears at the zipper. And definitely don't go as sloppily as quickly as me, because you do not want to cut anything by accident. I've got a lot of fabric that I'm dealing with here because I haven't pulled it all out in position. But pinking shears do the job quickly. We've done the one side. We're going to do that other side. And it's the bulk at the zipper sides that I really want to make sure that I trim off, but that also, more importantly, I reinforce. Okay. All right, we're going to cut off that zipper, and my scissors are... Okay, we're cutting off this piece. We're cutting off this piece. And we're going to go in and deal with that bulk. And you can snip, snip, snip. I would, again, spend more time trimming out and getting rid of than I am now. Can you see even when I do that, there's a whole bunch of bulk that's there. Just take your time when you do this so you're not cutting through anything that means you have to rip out and start over. There's a lot of bulk. So I want to get rid of that. Okay, back of the sewing machine, we're going to reinforce those stitches again. And I'm going to be sewing over that zipper area one more time. And my machine is not liking it, so I'm going to walk through a little bit. And let's see if we can do that. And when I get to this zipper area, again, I'm just going to make sure that that's reinforced. That's where all your tension and stress will be. Same thing on the other side. And then we're going to close that opening. After we do some pressing. Projects are really ugly until you turn and press well. And it's the pressing well that makes all the difference. It's the finagling that makes all the difference. And when you're on camera, at least for me, I try to do this quickly, so I'm not always spending the time that I'd like to. But I really want to make sure that when I'm making these projects for real, that those curves that are in this template do their job. Okay, so I'm poking out the corners. We're going to be pulling out that lining, so we're not working on it too much right now. The zipper, we didn't do any pressing before, so I'm fingering here. You can do a top stitch if you want to. I didn't do a top stitch on any of mine, but it's totally up to you. Finger pressing, I'm pulling a little bit away from that zipper as well, because I want to get, again, that shape. All right, before I go to the ironing board, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch this closed. Now you can do the same thing that I did before, where you stitched that closed and then pressed it and then ripped it out, but I'm not going to do that because this is going to be on the inside and it's not going to show. What I'm doing instead is folding it under a little bit, giving it a good press here. And notice I'm just doing a little bit at a time because most of that can be fixed at the sewing machine by just pulling tight. Cut your threads, which I'm not going to do right now. And I'm just going to use my fingers there. And I am going to put a clip here just to hold in place, but this is definitely the kind of thing that's going to be worth taking the time to iron. And Cole, I was just saying, Cole just joined us. I didn't know if she was going to join us on camera, and she did. Hopefully she can sit in a spot where she won't be too interactive. Hi, baby. Hi, little girl. All right, we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch this closed. And hopefully Cole won't join us over here. And a matching thread does help, but, you know, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. All right. Now we can go ahead and start to pull and press. You can see here now I'm going to take the time with my lining to just finagle that a little bit, because that is turned inside out and still wanting to go in the opposite direction where it shouldn't be. So I'm going to be pulling that fabric a little bit. And again, this just gives it a little bit more of the shape of the mask keeper, which will be wider at the top, narrower at the bottom. All right, so we've done some of that. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Now, before you close it, you probably would want to go in with those corners and poke out those corners. I'm just going to pull. And I can finagle it enough. Rolling back and forth is one of those tricks that, you know, sometimes it's just the perfect thing, and sometimes it's not enough. I'm pulling at my zipper tab, my zipper little handle here, because that'll give me a little bit more on the outside too. And again, use a poker tool to get to those corners. And you can see I'm just going to kind of get where I can see that seam. You all can't see it, but I can see a little bit that there's a seam there. And I'm just pushing that out. All right. And now we can start turning right sides out. I think I'm going to stay over here because Cole's in the camera over there. And we'll just work my hand through here. So these zipper cases, they were made for masks. Hopefully we won't be needing to wear masks nearly as much as we did in the past. So that means you can use this case for makeup and scissors and tweezers and your tools, or for lip gloss and for whatever, cash, credit card, whatever it is. So you decide what you want to do with it. Top stitching will give it a nice finish. I didn't take the time to top stitch, but I'm sure you guys have had to have done projects where top stitching is one of those things that you've practiced. So work on that, and the top stitching will help as well. All right, let's take a look at my little zipper case. All right, so we've got our zipper case here, and I've got Cole over there. And you can see, I want to give it a little bit more shape, but there's my Day of the Dead and Day of the Dead over there. Not a whole lot of the face, but you get the idea. Fussy cutting will make all the difference. We've got the zipper top. We've got our mask keeper case. You can, again, put whatever goodies in there you want. Put a gift card in here for somebody. Give it as a gift. It's just one of those really nice, simple projects to do. I love using that tape, so see if that's something that would make your zipper techniques a little bit faster, a little bit easier. And remember to go back and watch my video on how to use the same template for making the towel toppers. All right, guys, it's Linda Winter at winterdesigns.com. You can head over to my website. This mask keeper template, if you go to products and templates, click on products and templates on my website, winner, opposite of loser, winterdesigns.com. When you're at products and templates, when you click on it, then you'll see a drop down of all my products. There's a ton of products, so don't do that. We're going to, at the very top of products, we're going to look at the sort by newest. So newest to oldest, you can do that. If you're looking for a bargain, you can always go to lower as well. So you can see, if you're into gnomes, I've got a bunch of gnome stuff, but there's a bunch of new things that I got to show on Wild Wednesday Live the other night and a bunch of other things. So newest to oldest, we'll show you the latest. But since we're talking towel topper, this mask keeper, we're going to right at the top, we can type in mask or topper. And when you go to topper, this towel topper for the mask keeper, it's listed two ways, towel topper mask keeper, but it's also listed as mask keeper towel topper. So you'll find it either one of those ways. See the mask keeper template? It's down there as well. So whichever way you want to call it, you may be more into the towel toppers, you may be more into the little zipper cases. It's totally up to you. Let me know what you think of this. And I hope you have a great time making towel toppers and mask keeper zipper bags. Thanks, guys.